Hey, deserving listeners, Love is Blind. Let's watch.
Anything left for you to say about that whole experience?
In hindsight, when I think back to the time of when I saw it for the first time, I had feelings involved. I was hearing Ben's side of the story. I was seeing all of online's side of the story. It wasn't small. There were thousands of comments on that, and that concerned me. But I chose to trust.
There were thousands of comments. Well, yeah. But is she saying there were, I reviewed that video. I don't remember looking at the comments, which don't usually have much value. I don't know. I don't look at TikTok very often, but the times that I have, I also don't look at the comments very often. But when I do, I'll tell you that the comments are either nonsensical to me or kind of inane. There's different cultures, and in terms of like each platform has its own kind of culture, and YouTube's comment culture has really evolved over time. Take it from me, as someone who's been on YouTube for the past 17 years, it has changed. So she's saying thousands of comments. I would assume that if there were clear indications that Ben was a horrible person, or there was more data or something, that she would have addressed that, right? So I'm guessing she's just referring to people saying, what a jerk face or something. Yeah. And I watched the TikToks in question in a member video or in a couple of member videos, and it looked like it could have been an indication that Ben in the past was a very highly problematic individual, but it also could have been that he wasn't. Because she didn't say anything specific. It was all very vague. She was alluding to things that if you didn't watch yourself while you're watching it, you would fill in the blanks with things that she did not say, but you think she might be saying.
Knowing what I know now about Ben, a TikTok like that makes sense. I'm not surprised.
What has come to light in the last year for you?
Great question. Because from our standpoint, we're like, knowing what you know about him, like what happened? Because on the edit, there wasn't anything along those lines. So this is a great question.
After the wedding day, I, of course, had all my hesitations. I knew I couldn't say yes, but I still had hope that we were able to work things out.
Oh, so they did date after, or she was open to that? Because in the edit, she was saying, or at least she was basically saying that she wasn't gonna, but it sounds like maybe she did.
But I had the agreement that I had to finish 3 more months before I could move back to Minnesota and start as staff. So I talked about this with Ben in the pods, and we were very excited because he works remote. That was our plan all along, is that he'd come with me to finish out 3 months, and then I'd move back to Minnesota and we'd figure it out. So we did live together for close to a week or 2 after the wedding.
Wow, they lived together after the wedding. Okay. For a couple weeks.
And we decided he'd be there for 2 weeks, up to 2 months. We discussed the little details of him having to bring his car or not, and we decided no, he's just gonna fly there. And so the next morning I left his house and drove to Nashville. It was a 12-and-a-half-hour drive. I didn't hear much from Ben that day, which is fine because I knew he was out with friends.
Okay, I'm gonna pause and just say something right here because I don't know how much, I can't show really long clips of this show on YouTube, and I want all these details. Maybe you saw this and you want to be reminded, but for some people watching these videos, they don't watch the show, they just watch my videos. So there seems to be a lot of details in there that I want to make sure gets in the video. So it sounds like he didn't show up, right? Is that what she's leading up to?
But I get to Nashville, and that's when I noticed that he removed me from Find My Friends, which I was shocked to see. I was really confused because I thought we left on good terms, and I honestly thought Ben was going to be in Nashville that week with me.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty shitty to do. Okay. There's a lot of different possibilities, and we'll get more data here. But, the thing with Ben was there was so little to grab onto in terms of his true personality. And I wondered if that was his true personality, but I suspected it wasn't. We don't know what was, if there was something more or something obscured. We don't know what that was. The temptation or the assumption is that it was something evil, but you could obscure a lot of things. You could just obscure you. And the real you is just a regular person, because of your worries of camera or your avoidant attachment style or something. And this looks like classic avoidant attachment. It's possible that when she was going to Nashville, because that is a pretty big deal, right? To move. And, it's a lot changes. It's not a small thing. Now, he verbally agreed to it, right? Now, it sounds like they had most of their conversations prior to the altar. So you could see a world in which, the week leading up to the altar, he's thinking, well, we're both a yes. So, yeah, of course, she's going to Nashville. I don't want to be without her. So, yeah, of course I'm going to go to Nashville with her because, we're married. So I can work remotely. So it's all good. And then they have the wedding day and he's in a whirlwind. And then they talk the next day and she's like, well, let's continue dating. And he's like, oh, okay, well, I haven't lost her. Okay. But wait, so she doesn't want to be with me and I'm hurt. And, we could imagine this being true, right? And then as the week progresses, avoiding, and not acknowledges his feelings. And this thought creeps into his head of just like, do I want to sacrifice all of this for her when I don't know if this is going to work out? Originally I agreed to this. So another possibility is that he's avoidant also of conflict. And he cannot handle, there's a lot of evidence of that, right? The whole way he responded to any question about politics or values or religion certainly could be explained by an extreme avoidance of conflict. And he might have traumas around witnessing conflict or being in conflict with his family members as a kid or something, where he just always, or he saw that modeled where you just sweep it under the rug. We wouldn't be surprised by that, right? And doesn't excuse it because he's a grown man. He should know better. And contact her before she leaves and say, by the way, I'm not sure if I want to go. And I think Sara would have had the conversation, right? But to just kind of ghost her in that way, it sounds like, that's not good. The ultimate thing here is that he is not wanting to go. So him not wanting to go is fine. Him not telling her before she goes. Now, I don't know if she had to sacrifice anything. I don't know if she got a place to accommodate two people and now she's stuck in this really weird lease or something. I don't know. Let's see what she says.
And so I was confused. That was out of left field. And I texted him. He sent, I believe it was 3 very scripted apologies. I read it and I was like, there is no weight to these words.
Okay. So texting. Now, for some people, that's viable. It's that sort of thing that they have either themselves or in a particular relationship that texts can suffice as a meaningful communication, right? In my relationship or in my small cultural pocket, you need to not only have a conversation, at the very least over the phone, you probably should have it in person, drive down there and tell her in person, because it's a big deal. Now, he might think, well, there's a possibility that he's thinking, well, you dumped me at the altar a couple weeks ago, and you initially said that you just wanted to end it with me because you said a lot of things that you said we were just not going to work out. And so I had accepted that. And then you said you might want to continue. And so we kind of continued. And I didn't really know what we were after that. And then, yeah, I should have told you. And I kind of thought I might not go. But then when you left and I gave it some thought and I talked with some people and I ultimately decided not to go. I mean, you could say on my way to the car, just like on your way to the altar, I made a final decision, But at the very least, texting is, pretty insufficient, right? At least she told him to his face.
And I didn't hear from him for a month and a half, probably.
Right. The other part of it, her whole premise is I can see how this TikToker was speaking from experiences that were legitimate. So what does this say about, because we believe Sara, right? That what does it say about him? What does it say about his past? Who knows? Are they connected? Are they related? We don't know. I mean, certainly the way that the woman was talking on TikTok, if it was a relationship that was over 4 years ago, it doesn't sound like something like this, right? It sounded like he was psychopathic, a predator is kind of what she was intimating, right? But we don't know. Is it possible that he avoided the relationship and really hurt that other woman in a similar way, like ghosted her in a situation that did not call for that or didn't allow, some ghosting in some instances, although generally I'm not a fan of, there's less of a problem, like if you go on a Tinder date and it's coffee for 15 minutes and you part ways and say, yeah, let's meet up sometime. Let's keep, chatting. And then you give it some thought, yeah, there was no chemistry there. And actually there's this other person that I'm really getting into. And then a week later you get a DM from that 15-minute coffee date person and you think, oh, I'll get back to him in a couple of days. And then you don't. I don't think that's great, but it's, it's more in a category of normalcy, I suppose.
Probably. And the next time he talked to me and reached out is when he told me that he talked to a past cast member who told him and advised him to be on good terms with me and to practice reunion questions together. And that was the day that I had the most clarity.
Yeah, I don't know. This feels very similar to the Virginia Devon situation, that they dated afterwards. You have Ben and Devon who are likely devastated. I mean, just imagine. You had, I think both of them genuinely were standing at the altar in front of all their friends and family after spending all day crying with everyone. And you're like, this is it. Getting married. It's happening. I'm so happy. This is my person. I love her. And then she says, no. And you're like, huh? And you have no way of processing it because you have toxic masculinity and you've been taught that you can't have emotions. And so you don't express any vulnerability. And so no one knows that you're suffering. No one knows to take care of you. And then you hear from the person that just did that to you that they want to continue dating. And you're thinking, of course, yeah, I mean, I'm in love with you. But you have a complicated set of feelings about it, right? I don't know what happened in the very short dating. And then, some things kind of start to go a little wrong, like Sara is moving away and there's a big leap that he has to take, a big sacrifice. Now he agreed to it. Or with Devon, it sounds like Virginia started to have complaints and, they might be legit, but Devon might be thinking, wait, so you dumped me and now you want to date me and now you're just like criticizing me? Like is this even viable? Why are we doing? I'm not saying that Devon and Ben did everything perfect, but you could just imagine being in that state. You're just like, wait, what's happening? And if you have a tendency to not stand on your own, 27, Ben looks like a full-grown adult, but I don't know, 27 is young. It's no excuse, but I'm just going to take a guess and say that if he were 47, I hope that he would have a more mature, upfront response and would know himself better, would talk to her and apologize and ask. Also, can you apologize to me? I thought you couldn't you have told me before? Something like that. But he avoids everything. He avoids asking for apology. He avoids his feelings. He avoids the situation. He doesn't reach out to her. He sends these texts, okay, I'm done. I don't have to deal with it. And then when it comes time to go on the reunion, he's like, oh, shit, yeah. Oh, well, my career could be over if we don't have a friendly relationship. So could we? And when these accusations come out of just like, yeah, he reached out to me and he said, let's practice what we would say. On one hand, yeah, it seems manipulative or Machiavellian or something shady, but I would think you would be stupid not to. Everyone should be very careful about their lives, their careers, their relationships regarding how they present themselves on the reunion. And it benefits, I think, everyone, in my opinion. I think it would have benefited Ben and Devon and Virginia and Sara if they just would have said, yeah, we tried dating and it just, we just decided to go our own ways. And, There are some things that I could get into that I wasn't happy about. They weren't horrible things, but he seemingly kind of avoids things, and I'm not going to fault him for that. It wasn't a huge deal. I was the one that said no to him at the altar, but I don't know. I know even more firmly that I don't think we're really made for each other. So, something like that. I think you could get away scot-free. Now the producers would hate that, right? Because there'd be no, and I get as a citizen, I also wouldn't appreciate that because it wouldn't give us anything to grab onto. Like, what it reminds me of is the first 15 seasons of Sister Wives, where I couldn't tell if everything was very hunky-dory in this family or if they were just really good at coming together as the four adults and agreeing on what can and cannot be said.
He told me that he talked to a past cast member who told him and advised him to be on good terms with me and to practice reunion questions together. And that was the day that I had the most clarity of who Ben was. But I was like, this is more validation. I can't believe it. And that was honestly the last time we really actually had a conversation about everything that happened.
Now, I want to be clear. For Sara to be upset, to be hurt, to be angry, to conclude that he is not a good person for her or might even be problematic in some ways, and that maybe there was something to the TikTok allegation, whatever that allegation was. Yeah, she's rational and smart and wise to do that, I think. So I'm not saying anything about her. She is trying to navigate the situation. She was abruptly dumped. If she were in his shoes, I am quite positive she would have had an in-person conversation with him about it. Does that mean he has no empathy? Or, more likely, he has some trauma that is resulting in him either being distorted or terrified of what he thought would happen if he were to face this head on?
Ben, we're going to ask.
Yeah. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus. I don't want to bring anyone.
What was their name, though?
I'll just say we might see him on one of the top 10 or top 5 moments.
What happened? Everyone, what is their name, though? Throw them under the bus. What's happening? Let's rewind that.
Ben, we're going to ask.
Yeah. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus. I don't want to bring anyone.
What was their name, though?
I am completely lost. What? So, I don't want to throw anyone under the... Is it a joke on you didn't say Sarah's name? I don't want to throw Sara under the bus? What was their name? Or who did you cheat with? Or something? I'm going to rewind it again.
Ben, we're going to ask.
Yeah. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus. I don't want to bring anyone.
I don't want to throw anyone. I don't want to bring anyone else. What was their name, though? I'm wondering if that was edited in that, because the way that she turns and says, we're going to ask. And wait, maybe I have to rewind into Sarah's bit a little bit.
The next time he talked to me and reached out is when he told me that he talked to a past cast member who told him and advised.
Is that what they're referring to? The past cast? I didn't think that it was either a man or a woman that talked to him. So there's some sort of implication there? I don't want to throw anyone under the bus. I don't understand. Because I would have thought, it just sounded like he was talking with other cast members, which I would have figured would be guys because they tend to bifurcate in those camps, But who knows? And they just told him, hey, before the reunion, you might want to make up with Sara because you don't want to go in blind and have her really angry and say a bunch of shit about you. So it would benefit you, which, you could see someone thinking, and you could see Ben following that advice. And then why wouldn't he want to throw anyone under the bus? Well, why would it be throwing anyone under the bus? Be like, yeah, well, I was talking with so-and-so, and, they were smart to tell me, is it wrong to have someone giving them advice? Or is there some implication that he was getting together with one of the other ladies on the show? And if so, what's the problem with that? Anyway, I don't know. Meaning, months after he broke up with Sara, broke up over text.
That was the day that I had the most clarity of who Ben was. But I was like, this is more validation. I can't believe it. And that was honestly the last time we really actually had a conversation about everything that happened.
Ben, you know we're going to ask.
Yeah. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus. I don't want to bring anyone.
What was their name, though?
I'll just say we might see him on.
Is that a callback to the show? You know, I watch this show so slowly, you know, because I stop. You know, for y'all, you probably, like my wife, she has a different version of the narrative of the story because she just watches it without pausing it, right? So that has pros and cons. One is that you get through it a lot faster, and so it's all kind of mushed together into one memory. But the con is that if you watch it without pausing it, you don't really absorb things as well necessarily, you know? But this could be one of the cons for me if I watch it so piecemeal that, and I also edit it, right? Which I edit my videos, so I will rewatch all that anyway. And one of the possibilities is that something happened. What was her name though? I don't remember any joke or any moment in the season where something like that came up. What was her name though? I'm trying to remember. So Ben Church of her name. Oh, the woman in the TikTok, but she wouldn't be asking that. I don't know. I guess it doesn't really matter. I mean, it kind of matters because what if I'm missing something? I don't know.
One of the top 10 or top 5 moments.
What season?
I'll just leave it out. I'm going to say they're probably going to be on one of the top 5 moments.
Oh, so someone from a previous season. Okay. How is it throwing anyone under the bus for someone to be rash? Is it, well, the way that the audience tends to react to stuff like that is that it's scheming of some sort. And I think you're actually stupid, at least not to think of, you know that they think about it. They would be really stupid not to think. I would consider them to be irresponsible not to think, how am I going to respond to the possible questions that I'm going to be asked? How are we going to get through this without harming each other? I don't want to harm you. I don't want you to harm me. Can we have a conversation? How is that? And if someone were to say that to him, how is that? Okay. And then he says, top 5. I wonder if it was Leo. I was going to take a guess and say it was one, because Leo seems like the sort of person that would reach out because he's at least from the little bit that I saw on his Instagram or TikTok or whatever, that he likes to mix it up on Instagram, which is fine. I mean, I'm mixing it up on YouTube, so there's nothing untoward or wrong with that. But I wonder if it was Leo, because I'm guessing that he's guessing that the Rolex thing will, anyway.
Was she or he
I could say it's
married?
He.
So do you know who it was, Sara?
Jimmy.
Here comes the bus.
This is
Okay, Jimmy. How is it? What's the scandal? I'm so confused. But at least I know what the bus is referring to. Okay, so Jimmy. Jimmy, I'm trying to remember what happened at the reunion for him. And but even if nothing happened to him or something did happen to him, there wouldn't be anything wrong with Jimmy, like just being a friend. I mean, I would tell someone, like, if a cast member is watching right now, you need to think about this. And it behooves you to actually work with your ex to not, if you both go in and attack each other, you both lose. You know, what's the hope? You're going to like win the arguments. And maybe to a lot of the audience that works on people, like, oh, you know, she got in a zinger. I respect her now. I think that might have even kind of happened last season with Hannah, that people were like, I don't think this was the majority, but I think some people were like, yeah, Nick D deserved that. I'm a Hannah stan, and she, you know, she reamed his ass, to quote Jimmy, or not Jimmy, Izzy. So, you know, maybe it does work on some of the, I don't know.
why you just go.
I don't blame Jimmy for telling him that. It's the fact that Ben had to hear that advice to reach out to me. He didn't care.
Okay, Sara. I feel when Sara says things, I'm like, okay, yeah. Sara's like, I don't mind that Jimmy told him this isn't a scandal. The problem is that he never reached out to me. That was the first time he reached out to me. Like he didn't seem to care. Now, I'm thinking he very much does care, but is avoidant. Or he didn't care. You know, that's another possibility. There is a possibility that he either was a yes at the altar and just is so disconnected from the world that he just didn't care either way, really. Or he was a no at the altar, or knew he was going to break up with Sara at some point, or knew Sara was going to say no, and he also never really cared. But that's not likely. I think there's so many examples pointing in the direction that he is conflict avoidant. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not saying this vindicates Ben at all. Conflict avoidant people can be some of the most fucking annoying human beings on the planet. Not all the time, but their avoidance of conflict, which I compassionately understand, can harm other people. It often does, honestly. It's not malicious, it's not sadistic, but it is harmful. All right, well, let's take a break for now. Tune in next time when I continue watching, only if you want to. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.